Welcome to Wise Move, where we dive into real estate, real life, and real wisdom. I'm your host, Meredith Buckland, a top realtor in the greater Atlanta area with over 12 years of experience. I have had the privilege to help hundreds of clients navigate their moves successfully while gaining a wealth of wisdom along the way. As Einstein said, wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of the lifelong attempt to acquire it. So join me as I connect with clients, colleagues, and industry experts to discuss market trends, share valuable advice, along with real-life stories that can help make every move a wise move. Hi, welcome to Wise Move. I'm with friend and colleague Stephanie Purrington, and she is with Keller Williams Intown Realty, and I am going to start this segment just having her introduce herself and just give a little bit about your brokerage and your kind of entry into real estate. So welcome, Stephanie. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. What an honor. This is lots of fun. My name's Stephanie Purrington with Purrington Homes. I am with Keller Williams Realty Intown Atlanta. I've been with Keller Williams since 2008. I've been a realtor for 20 plus years now.
Wow.
And Meredith is seasoned as well, and I think that's one of the things that helped us collaborate so well. But I've been with Keller Williams a long time, and the reason is one of the subjects we're going to touch on is collaboration. They always teach win-win, no deal, and that's what we did, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. And just to go back and give a little bit of history, Stephanie and I had the privilege to work on opposite sides of the table a few years ago, and my buyers were coming to her sellers and loved the home. And part of that journey, they had their own buyers on their property. So we were set up in a kind of a domino effect, which is a little nerving to everyone, but we were under contract, set to close, and then close on Stephanie's client's home, and we got the call that we all dread. And it was a call that was, hey, we're not going to make it to closing. We were within days, I believe, of that, or maybe a week, not much more. And that agent reached out to me on my property and said, is there anything that can be done? Can your lender jump in and try to save this deal? So that was a quick phone call to the lender. And then also that next step was to call you, Stephanie, and say, hey, Houston, we've got a problem, but hopefully together we can solve it. And that was one of the most impressive things about this whole transaction, was that cooperation and that ability to see the big picture and to guide our clients through a really emotional situation that had even heightened from there. So that was really how we met. And then just a little bit after our first closing date, we were all actually at the table together and successful. And I really credit the teamwork, Stephanie, with yourself and just being willing to rest assured with your sellers that we were going to get through this, and each of us having, I think, good communication.
Absolutely.
You and I were connected back to my lender, and he was able to jump in and give very good visibility so that all parties could see.
We talk about collaboration among agents, but the collaboration really is whole team wide, which means lender, David Gray, who is he with? I forgot.
Yeah, he's with Countrywide Mortgage.
Okay, he was awesome.
Yeah.
You just have to have a whole team that have that collaborative attitude toward and think outside the box sometimes.
Yeah, and going in this, I was telling another agent, when I first came into real estate, I enjoyed the negotiation. I wasn't real scared of it, but I had a different mindset towards it. It was almost very firm, and this is the way it's going to be. And then, as you probably have experienced yourself over the years, you develop that realization that there's a roadblock somewhere on either side of this, or with each person that has a concern or a fear, agent, lender, client, and I've got to remove those. And how do we get together? Because we both want the same outcome. We want our clients' home and investment to be protected. And oftentimes, if we come at it like a bull in a china shop, we're not going to have
You're not
that
going to.
ability to remove those roadblocks and listening to each other and hearing the concerns, and then just having transparency. And Stephanie, I know with your years of experience, you have experienced that kind of ghosting from lenders and agents as you get into some of the critical parts of the contract. And that can be really concerning when you're not hearing anything. And
Yes.
so this was one case where we really had to give good visibility, and both of us, like, hey, we're going to be on these conversations together. The lender's going to be copying all. It's going to
I
make sure
think
that
we
we can do that.
talked daily for a
Yeah,
while. I
we
mean,
did. And because you had to reassure as well
yes.
your seller, they almost held, I don't know if it was the biggest risk, but it certainly felt like it because they had two parties downline and they were dependent upon that first closing and then the next one of my clients to be able to close on theirs. So all of that just felt, I'm sure, very overwhelming. How difficult was that for you to navigate that, and how did you find that you best handled that with them?
I think the biggest thing was that my clients trusted me. Now, I was not their first agent. So behind the scenes, and you may not even have known this, Meredith, but I was the second listing agent on their property. The first one had let them down. They were under contract even, and it fell through, but the agent didn't even know what was going on with the lender and had done some things that they didn't. The trust was already broken with the real estate world from that. So I had to go in with a, do you trust me? Here's my track record. Here's what my goal is, to get your property sold for you for the top amount of money with the least amount of stress. And they were nervous Nellies anyway and very detail oriented. So I had to hear that from them, first of all,
Yeah.
and communicate to you that we need to be on top of this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I'm sure that was a very difficult, because you've now trying to earn their trust. And then here comes that dreaded scenario again of, are you kidding me? You know, like,
Really, on this one, we're
we
going to do
just
this?
did this. And those are the kind of things that we can't always control those, but we can try to stabilize the situation. And hopefully if we've built that trust and then we have trusted resources involved and we have really good communication, because I really get concerned if I'm reaching out to a lender and to an agent just for an update and I'm hearing nothing, like nothing. I'm like, that is the worst form. And sometimes the parties on the other side, they don't know that their agent is not cooperating, they're not communicating. And so they are just trying to trust what they don't know. And
Right.
that agent is very responsible then, in a way, to be that professional that keeps it all together. And we can be a roadblock to that if we're not careful. But that, I remember specifically on that one because it was such a domino effect. We were right in the middle. The agent who was buying my property, she was very overwhelmed herself and had been blindsided, but then just begging, please, my client needs this home and I don't know what happened to this lender. And I have a buyer that's still there, which was, I thought, was very critical to all this, because if we had a buyer that wasn't capable or not interested still, we would have a big issue. But they were there once I got my lender, who, again, we use trusted lenders as a resource, because then we can quickly gain the confidence that they've done their homework. And I asked him, like, can you put your eyes on this? Can you get with this buyer? See if she's approved, see where she's at. Can you close this? And then can you please now get on the phone and talk with Stephanie and reassure her that we do have a qualified buyer. You can get this done. And now my sellers will be able to sell their home and turn around and buy your property. So all of that was just in a matter of days and hours that took place. And we really had to, you and I had to quickly gain trust of each other too in that moment. And I think that was our first one that we had worked on. But within that, I just remember just feeling the relief that when I communicated with you, your sense of can do, calmness, it wasn't heightened, it wasn't dramatic, it wasn't what is happening and blame gaming, the whole thing. But it was like, okay, yeah, let's figure out a solution. And that really elevated my respect, Stephanie, for you as an agent. And I was
Well,
talking to someone
likewise.
else about that.
Like,
Yeah. And
because
I
if
was
you
telling
need
someone
someone
else.
on your end too,
Yeah.
that is being that hardcore, we have to do this and you have to get your
Yeah.
sellers to blah, blah, blah. No, I don't have to, but I
Right,
want to.
right. Yeah, we want to. And
Yeah,
well, agents that are really invested in their clients and protecting them and trying to get this done.
right.
And it was such honestly, a joy professionally and personally because of our relationships with our clients to see it all come together and knowing it could have just all imploded and just understanding that whole dynamic. So that was incredibly encouraging. And I remember I've had other conversations with my clients and agents about sometimes we see another agent's name pop up on our listings or otherwise, or we are the buyer and we're going to the listing and you're like,
Oh,
oh my
boy.
goodness, I know what is ahead. And that importance of cooperative, excuse me, professionalism is really then what sometimes wins the bid,
Yeah.
sometimes helps you move to that first position. Have you experienced that shift quite a bit in your length of time?
Absolutely. And over time, the longer I'm in this industry, the more I have my list of people. When I see the agent's name on the listing, I go, oh, this will be wonderful.
Yeah, yeah,
And because you know your people that you can trust and
right.
are going to communicate with you and have their trusted collaborative team behind them. And yeah, it's very important. And as a buyer,
Yeah.
it's super important that you choose a realtor like yourself or me that is all in. It's not
Yeah.
about the commission we're earning. It's
Right.
about helping them achieve their goals with as little stress as possible and being there for them and having that can-do attitude. So
Yeah, because sometimes we're walking in and we know the client. Other times it's the first time we're meeting them. We have to quickly build that trust, give them confidence, kind of set the expectations. But in this current market where buyers are really assessing the compensation that they've always been responsible for, but now even more understanding that this is becoming a topic, sometimes I have found they feel like, hey, I can do this. Like, I have Zillow. I can find a property. I can call that listing agent. I can just make my way in. And how have you been guiding the discussion with some of the younger buyers in particular who have not gone through the home buying process, but also think because of all the information out there, that they can handle it without an agent?
the first thing we do is sit down and talk about the steps, and it's a mile long.
Yeah.
Of what you go through to get to that closing table. And the first thing they have to know is their numbers.
Yeah.
And what's their buying power? So we talk about that first, and then we talk about, okay, and then you're going to go through an inspection, and then you're going to go through an appraisal, and you need somebody on your side that can help you negotiate through every step of that to get to the closing and tell you what to expect. So a seasoned realtor is really important.
Yeah, and really important to having those type of conversations because sometimes we know the information, but conveying it to them in a way that they do understand those steps versus, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm just going to unlock the door for you, find your house, write your offer. But they don't really see the backside of a well-run machine of everything that's taking place and the hours and the just understanding the contract and the protection and where things could go really badly. And I've even had seasoned clients who have said to me, hey, I sold my home before by owner, did it with a neighbor, it went well, and I pretty much got this, but I might need help because my schedule's a little busy or whatever, but they feel like they've got it. And sometimes it's the going back and reminding them of what you don't know that you don't know. And did you have it? Did you get the best protection that you could have, the best deal out of that, the best value? And certainly navigating, there's many different steps to this. It's like we're project managers of a really big investment purchase that is not just this simplified, somebody opened the door, I gave them the number and now we're done. There's a lot to it.
And Meredith, don't you find now that it's really important too to have the big picture and be able to, because maybe they did sell their house by
Yeah.
themselves, but maybe it was 5 years ago.
Right.
Or 4 years ago when
Right.
everybody's getting multi-offers when they throw a listing out there
Right.
and they think that's going to happen in this climate.
Yeah.
You and I both know because we watch the stats and we keep up with what's going on in our market.
Yeah.
Is that's not happening right now.
No, it's
You may need
not.
some additional marketing, and you may need some additional hand-holding, and you may need to understand that 85% of the sellers are giving seller concessions in this market.
Yeah, and it's really shifted that I was letting my recent sellers know this is no longer we just put the home on, we get our list price, we have to do very little to get it ready for marketing.
Yeah.
Buyers they're already strapped with the rates and the
Yeah.
house prices and their income to all of that. And how do they accomplish that dream home? And then they walk up to it, they're throwing everything on the table still. Even if they're not in a bidding war, they're still throwing a lot on the table. And then if they look at the property or get an inspection report and suddenly they're overwhelmed with the realities of what it could take, and that seller's
And
just
the
thinking,
reality
yeah.
that it's not a perfect house.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that when I go through an inspection, I'm always telling them, like, this is not new construction. Some of this stuff is just the inspector is putting standard language to protect himself or that he advised you, or it's just awareness. But it can be a lot for those clients to absorb in that.
Right.
What have you seen a shift, or how is the market different for you than when you started to now, and what are you experiencing?
So I think the biggest shift right now is that shift from 5 years ago of putting a home on the market and it just flies off the market. You have to have your pool of resources to actually market that house. You have to do reverse prospecting to other agents that you know. You have to keep pulling that property up to top of mind, homes.com, and where they're doing retargeting, and you're reverse prospecting to other agents that maybe have a search started. This is a weekly thing, and your
Yeah.
communication has to be top notch.
Yeah. And I try to tell my sellers too, like, literally as we go in, it's so erratic. I could tell you 2 weeks ago, maybe you're here, and literally a shift politically or economically, any news that might be negative or otherwise, it just shuts down. It's like you can feel it, like everything comes to a screeching halt. And that can be really devastating, especially if you've just gone on the market and then, the next day you've got something news that came out and everyone's concerned about. Stephanie, how are you guiding, like, your first time buyers when they come to you? What are some of the first steps that you help them with and you have found really valuable in that for your buyers?
So I think the first step is helping them to understand what their buying power is and connecting them with a trusted lender, of which I have many, and I know you do as well, people that you've been to bat with and you know they're going to get
Right.
through the process. So that's the first thing, is know what their buying power is. Number two is knowing what's out there for that amount of money and what condition is it in. So you can't get that on Zillow. You have to dial into, and you can't trust that some of these apps have the accurate information. The next step, once you know the buying power, is to go out and look at some homes, maybe 3,
Yeah.
and walk through them, listen to their feedback, and give your feedback so that they understand at $250,000 you're going to get a property that's going to need some work.
Yeah.
Or in East Cobb, you're going to have buying power of $800,000 to $900,000 if you want to be in those East Cobb schools and
Right.
have 4 bedrooms and a basement and a yard and all of that, and a home that's move-in ready.
Yeah, and that's been such a journey, and with these clients, because so many of them, the incomes do not match the home price increase, and that rate. And also guiding them, like you said, the first step, getting them in a comfortable position to understand their buying power with an agent you trust. If I have a client and they come to me and I say, have you been pre-approved? Do you have a lender that you're working with? And they pull something out like a internet lender that's maybe off of Zillow or something else that they found, but I don't have any context to them. Or it's some big box and they're going into a portal of multiple lenders that are grabbing it up. That is very concerning for me. Number one, did that lender do their homework? Are they well seasoned in this? Do they know what they're doing? And I try to convey to them, listen, I have to not only sell you, I have to sell your lender to that agent. Like, I have to show the value that you are coming really well qualified and that I have worked with that lender before. I know he does his homework or she does her homework, and this is a really well qualified buyer for that. And then that buyer, I also want them to understand the breakdown of what it looks like monthly. Not just, oh, I can do 450. Does 450 look like? How does that look like in this community with the taxes? Or how does it look like with all the escrows combined, everything that makes up that monthly payment, so they're not blindsided?
And oh, by the way, you need a little slush fund
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
roof is 8 years old.
Yeah.
So if you're
Right.
going to stay there for 10 years, you're probably going to need a new roof for 15 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the water heater's going to go out. So you need that fund, or you need a home warranty that's going to help defray some of the costs and all that information. And here's what your utilities are going to be.
Yeah.
So it's your total monthly, the whole
Yeah.
picture. Yes.
There's so much education that goes into the process. If you really have that goal to be valuable, to be a really trusted resource, you want to bring them all of that awareness and knowledge. Like, I personally, and I know that you're the same, when we take on a client, we are sometimes awake at night thinking through the what ifs ourselves, because if we guide them wrong, or we give them the wrong advice or not the right advice, or we missed a step along the way, we could cost them thousands in that. And so within that process too, bringing them so much education so that at the end of it, I always tell them, I want you to sit as confidently as possible at that closing table, and that what I don't know that I don't know are pretty much removed, and you have as much information as humanly possible on that home, that you know what you're doing with it. And because it's a lot of information that I remember my experience buying a home years ago, and that some of that was what channeled into me how I am today as an agent, because I was at the closing table on one of our first properties. We had scraped together everything to get in, and we're in at the closing table, and they came in and they said, we need $1,000 more.
Ooh.
And I'm looking at, and this is back in the 90s. So $1,000 more was a lot. It was a lot. It's a lot now. It was a lot then. And they said, we need it. We can't close without it. I didn't know why. I had no idea. There was no explanation. Who made the mistake? Where was this not calculated? Why didn't my agent know, lender know? All of that. All I knew to do at that moment was look at my husband and, do we even have $1,000? I don't even know that we have $1,000. Rob and Peter to pay Paul. And we closed on that. But those moments, and another transaction later, we went to sell, and we were just told, hey, your buyer just didn't qualify.
$1,000.
Yeah, it doesn't work, but you're not going to get the earnest money. There were just many steps along the way with different house buying and selling experiences that didn't feel right. And I didn't know why, but I just knew it didn't feel right. And my goal has always been my clients, as much as possible, to never have them sitting at the table with that experience or wondering what I don't know that I don't know, and why is nobody giving me a good explanation. And sometimes we don't always have all the answers, but as much as lies within us to get the right answers and to make sure they're protected and we're not blindsided at the closing table is really important.
Here's
I
another
believe
important point that I always try and make to buyers and sellers is Yes, I've got 20 plus years of experience, but I don't know everything, and it's
Yeah.
fluid and it's always changing. You have to be an advocate for yourself alongside the education that I'm bringing and the consultation that I'm bringing. I don't know everything either. I'm human just like you, and things change. And so you need to be responsible to get your questions answered from a reliable source and make sure that you're asking all the questions that you have. And I'm providing you all the consultation that all my years of knowledge too, and helping you through all that because it's a complicated process.
Yeah, I think that's really important what you said because we're not licensed lenders, licensed lawyers, all in all these areas, licensed mechanics. So we can't speak in to something like that level. But oftentimes, I think sometimes it can be easy for us to give answers that we don't have clarification or full understanding of, or we just want to appear like we're so knowledgeable that we don't set the expectation that, hey, like you said, things are changing and this is not the same and all of that, but I'm going to go and get you an answer to this. And I'm going to go to that licensed expert and get you that information. And for most, I have found, and I'm sure you have, that just having someone who is that advocate and knowing they're going to go get the answers, they're going to communicate with us well, gives them the reassurance, and us, because we're learning.
Yes.
I'm always learning. I'm all the time, I'm always questioning, how do I do things? What's the right way? And there's more education, which I think is one thing. You started with Keller Williams, Stephanie?
No, I was with another broker, but just briefly, just for 2 years.
Okay.
And one of the things that attracted me to Keller Williams was that education piece.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they're so agent-centered.
Yeah.
And they are focused on us having all the tools to be the best that we can be.
Yeah.
And that education is key.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
On a weekly basis.
Yes.
Especially in this market.
No, I totally agree. I can tell the difference with brokerages out there. There are distinctions, and if I have somebody that I'm historically dealing with that's been in the Keller Williams world, they are very well educated. So for an agent, I think that grounding yourself in that is so important. I've been with HomeSmart. They acquired Palmer House, and Angie Meza-Smith, who helped with the GAR forms, does a lot of education.
She's our compliance broker.
Oh,
now.
yeah, she was with us, and now she's with you, but amazing level of knowledge and just on speed dial. Angie, how do I handle this? Angie, because there's situations that you're coming up, but you haven't had them in a while, and it's like that language change or just it's so nuanced. Did I get this right? And so she's a valuable assist. So
she's amazing.
Yeah, very fortunate to have her. What stands out to you as maybe one of your most rewarding transactions in all of your 22 years, and why?
Ooh, let's see. I think there were two transactions that are together because it was the sale of a young couple's home when they were having a baby, and then them calling me back when their parents were moving from California. And having that whole family trust their real estate needs to me, I think has been the most rewarding. And I do love when a buyer, whether they're first-time home buyers or not, when you hit that mark, when you walk in the door and they go, oh my gosh, this is it.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't it? Yeah, I often tell mine, you're going to just have that aha moment. I cannot have that aha moment on every property, else I'd be in trouble. But we can guide, okay, pay attention to this or that, or this is good, or that might be concerning. But watching them, and sometimes you think they're going to fall in love with a property or like a property, and then they don't for some reason. And the ones that they do, you're like,
really?
I didn't see that coming. You like that? But it is so awesome to see them get so excited.
Yes.
To discover that dream of owning their own home and that first home buying experience. And I worked a lot with first-time home buyers when I started, and then because I knew they were going to buy again and again, and I love the education process and just that you just become like family. But
Yes.
yeah, so many of them, watching them sit at the table, and it's still very emotional. It's like even
It
after how
is.
many you do, it's so overwhelming. And then just when they say thank you, like for the help that you gave in finding that home or protecting, it's just, I think that's a big reward that I found, and I'm sure you have as well in
Absolutely.
what we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That beats any number commission. Yes, I'd
Yeah.
love to make the 2 million, $3 million sales all the
Yeah.
time, but
Yeah.
that's not what brings me joy. It's seeing those first time home buyers. I have one now and he's just selling. We're on the
Yeah.
market to sell. And the amazing things he did with the house,
Mm.
because it was one of those that I went, really? You want this?
Yeah.
And he did, and
Yeah.
he made it into a little cutie pie that is now on the market, and he's going to make money on it.
Yeah. It's
So
amazing.
that wealth building
Yeah.
too, when somebody was really not feeling like they were overwhelmed about the buying process, and then not only do they buy, but they make money when they sell, and he now has a family, and so they're moving on and they're buying bigger, and but just to be part of that and have
Yeah.
them go, we really trust you, and
Yeah.
we want you to be the one to sell our home.
Yeah, there's no greater compliment to you as a
Absolutely.
business owner and that feeling. And you're talking about them making money. I think one of the challenges I felt like I experienced with some of my first time buyers who bought pre-COVID or right before then and then sold after is in some cases they literally sold for double of what they had spent.
Yes.
And I would have a conversation like, this is amazing. You will probably not see this again for what little you put into the home. And
In
they
your
would be like,
lifetime. Yeah.
no, they'd be like, I pressure washed and I did do it. You're like, like you literally bought this property and 3 years later, you're selling it for twice the price. Now,
Right.
the next time that probably won't happen. So be prepared for
Right.
that shift and do it wisely. But so many of those couples that and families and individuals that bought during that time really experienced a big turnaround. So sometimes you have to reset the expectations later. You're not going to make double. We're no longer in that. We hope that after all is said and done, you're still able to make something and move. I always felt like my husband and I, before I was in real estate, we seemed to buy high and sell low. We were always in that cycle. And I'm like, I don't know how we got here, but it was the markets that we were forced to sell in or buy in. And so I watch some of these couples that do amazing on this or individuals, and I'm like, that's fantastic. But COVID really shifted that whole direction
Right.
within that. So.
Right.
Yeah. So Stephanie, what are you currently seeing even as you look forward in the market, and how are you preparing for it, and what are you doing to equip yourself to handle the
So
upcoming market?
real estate is always a cycle, and we've had such a good several years that now we're seeing our property values in Atlanta are always going to be good. Atlanta is a very sought after place to live. Our modest cost of living is a draw. The corporations moving in and out of Atlanta are a draw. So we're always going to have a good market. But we have cycles like everybody else. We're starting to see that we're not making 4% increase in property values anymore. So now they're still increasing, but they may be only increasing 1%. And we may have a couple of years where that flattens out or goes down to correct for all the good years we've had. But I think people need to understand, and when they say is now a good time to buy, how long are you going to stay in the property? Because if you're looking to flip and be out in a year, maybe this isn't the best time. But if you are in it for the long haul, Atlanta's always, Metro Atlanta, and I know you're up in Gwinnett and I have been too, but we've always had overall, over the stretch of 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to make money on your property. So helping people assess that is important. I forgot what your question was.
it's okay. I have many questions, just trying to wake you up this morning. No, really within that, like you talked about, setting their expectations for that market that they do need to be in it for the long haul. This isn't really necessarily the let's flip it and get rich moment and pair, but then also encouraging, I'm sure too, get off the sidelines for some of them. I've had clients who will be like, I'm going to wait until this happens, hoping that's going to change dramatically their buying power, only to discover it went up and you lost your buying power. And that process of 6-7 months even changed the course of it. And redirecting them on, hey, the rates are going to fluctuate. You can redo the rate, but make sure that property, it fits your needs. You can grow into it. You have 3-5 years at least that you're in and grounded, and then start to bring value to that home, just even in careful maintenance and
Right.
awareness of it, so that if you do have to sell, you're not suddenly with a huge long list of repairs. And then how many clients do we have that do that? And then they say, I wish I'd done this sooner, so I
Right.
could have enjoyed it.
So I could have enjoyed it.
Yes.
Yep.
Instead,
Yep.
they're finding themselves doing it now out of necessity because it wasn't done and I need to sell the property. And I'm not in necessarily a bid war where it's a seller's market.
So Meredith, we talked about some questions, some topics we wanted to touch on, and one of those was, what are the things that you feel bring the most value that sellers can do to increase the value of their home? What are those top things that they could or should do?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Sometimes I'll have clients that they're like, hey, a friend told me if I remodel this or do that I'm going to bring value to it. And I try to guide them. If your mechanics are not updated, start there, because the mechanics of the home, I can guarantee you that if we advertise new HVAC, new roof, new water heater, septic is serviced, those areas that impact that home in a very cost high price ticket, that if they will do those things, they are already going to relieve so much of the pressure for that buyer. And that buyer is typically going to care more about that than the seller picked a granite countertop that they didn't like, or
Right.
something vice versa. So I usually start with the mechanics discussion, and then I might move into the exterior maintenance. Does it need painting? The wood repair when you walk up to the property, and then when we go in, neutralizing the paint. Simple things like that, maybe putting in new carpet, doing something that's neutral, that sells, that conveys, but especially for me, I have found hitting the mechanics, because if you do all of these, I just wanted to renovate this and that, and you're adding lots of cost and maybe personal taste to some area, but your mechanics are all just about ready to go, you're going to have that discussion again in the inspection, because it's going to get brought up, and in a way that scares that buyer, because they use language like nearing the end of life on a
Yes.
unit that's any 10, 12 years old, even nearing the end of life. And maybe it has another 10 years, but the minute they see that language, they suddenly go, okay, it's not as efficient. It could break down. I've got a $10,000 HVAC system. So those are areas that I have found personally. I don't know if you've experienced something different or if you're the same, but
Well,
love to hear
I
that.
agree with you in the mechanics, and sometimes you have to explain that it's not necessarily you're not going to get your dollar for dollar back in value at the closing table, but it increases your sellability,
Yeah.
and that's just maintenance you should have been doing
Right.
excuse me, all along. Yes, the mechanics, and here's a big topic right now, our roofs.
Yes.
You have a 25-year-old roof, it's very likely that your buyer cannot get a homeowner's insurance policy on that roof.
That's correct. Yeah.
So we as listing agents need to have a pool of vendors that will go, okay, we'll replace it and you can pay for it at time of closing.
Yes,
Here's the
yes.
contract, but let's go ahead and get it replaced so that
Right.
it's not an objection for your buyers.
Yeah, because sellers often, they want to do the least possible. We're all naturally inclined like that. So you think if
Sure.
I can get it on and not have to touch anything.
Yep.
But if you will take those steps, you make that home stronger value for that buyer and for the appraisal. Because that appraiser even is going to look at what's been updated in the last 5 years. And that condition is going to impact you. Like you said, insurance is going to impact you. Lending may get involved in certain cases. So all of this plays in together that sellers have to understand. If you didn't take care of some of this before, then you need to price accordingly for that and or replace that, because they're not going to be able to move forward or want to move forward on
Right.
that property. Those are hard conversations,
They
but
are, and that
yeah.
it's not going to put money in their pocket. Here are the things that do put money in your pocket. Do you have an unfinished space? Like, you can't see it very well, but my office is
Yeah.
like 500 square feet of drywall.
Right.
I have flooring. It serves its purpose now, but when we go to sell this house, the first thing we'll do is finish this, and it's already heated and cooled. But any unfinished space, adding a bathroom, if we would put a bathroom up here, that adds dollars in your pocket.
Yes.
Adding another bedroom, finishing off a space, and understanding what constitutes a bedroom. Is just a room with no closet considered a bedroom? Can you call that a bedroom? No, you can't. But if you put a closet in it, or you have a space that's finished, that's heated and cooled, but it has no closet and it has no second egress or window, maybe you pop a window in and add a closet, and
Right.
that is your fourth or fifth bedroom that's going to add money to your pocket, because a 5-bedroom house is going to sell for a higher price than a 4-bedroom.
Yeah, definitely. And walking them through, which this is a huge topic, walking them through even understanding some of what is going to come up if they permitted work or didn't permit work, and how
Yes.
they handle that. If you didn't permit it, you need to disclose. And how that all, I had a client that was selling a property with an accessory dwelling. They had updated that. They were 90 some percent through, meaning they had pulled some of the permits years ago when they did it, but they stopped short. And they
Yes.
didn't finish with the final approval, final occupancy on that. And I said, okay, if you don't have this, they're also on septic. We've also got these other impacts. You're close to the property line. This would probably be a good conversation to finish it under permitting. And in fact, so they went that journey. It wasn't an easy conversation. They did go that journey. And interestingly, partway through that, there was actually county people that had been alerted, because they were for sale, probably by a neighbor or someone, that the property had unpermitted space on it. And so that was something that probably only a neighbor would have known. So I came out of the property one day and I see the county vehicle going by while I'm getting ready to list this. And I'm like, that's interesting. They were slowing down. And then they called me. The listing agent, we understand this property is on market or going to market, and you have an unpermitted space dwelling on this property. Fortunately, because we were already in process and that had already been filed and opened back up, and he was getting his final occupancy certificate, he was good to go. And I was able to literally say, nope, actually, he has that certificate of occupancy and we're good. So all was settled. They were able to go to market. They were able to sell, get really strong for this home. But all of those areas came up within that.
Right.
So it can be a really critical piece that as you're getting ready to invest in your home and do these type of modifications, figuring out the right approach to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is sometimes not a fun conversation for all of us. But the disclosures, especially because Georgia disclosing everything is so helpful. And sellers understanding that, hey, I'm going to have to put this down. It's going to be a question on
Right.
there.
So let's
Yeah,
put
well-
it down. Let's take care of it so that we can put down that we did it and it's
Yeah.
taken care of.
It's taken care of and properly and gives peace of mind. So Stephanie, we're almost out of time, but I'd love to hear like your advice for agents even looking to get into the real estate market. You've had such a great length of experience and you've seen so many phases of this. What would be your advice for a realtor entering or trying to enter the market?
I think, wow, so much. And it grows every year as we are always seeing new things. But I think the most important thing is to be a student of your craft and choose a brokerage wisely that's going to support you and educate you and provide resources for you and protect you. And so that's number one. And always stay connected to what's going on in the market and get ready to work hard.
Yeah.
It's not about what your commission check is going to be. It's going to be that relationship building process with everybody you know, and to be one who serves others and meets their needs and is a consultant more than a salesperson.
Yeah.
Just know it's not going to be easy, and there's no sure paycheck.
Right.
So you need to have reserves in the bank to pay about a year's worth of bills, especially today in this climate, and be ready to serve.
Yeah. I think that's such great advice. I know often I'll get a call and a friend or someone I know, hey, I'd love to get my real estate license and how does it work? And they've probably watched a lot of non-reality reality TV shows on real estate, and we're always dressed up in heels and perfect attire, and everything's glamorous, and we get these large compensations. And the reality is, I'm like, you could be working with a client for a year or two or more, and if you got to the table and it didn't close, you don't get paid, and you're still paying cost every month as a business owner, and you're navigating through a really big deal for them. So there's a lot of extra stress. So just understanding this is hard work. It's not a get quick rich scheme. And for those of us who have stayed the course, though, it is one of the most rewarding jobs to be able to have a front row seat at somebody at the closing table and have seen their journey and to have seen so much work come together, answers to prayer, have just a beautiful collaboration there. It's so rewarding and I love it. And I loved our journey together, Stephanie, within that. And I greatly appreciate your work and where you are. And I would love for you to even share like where people can find you, because we both work in a really big state and in a really big metro Atlanta. So there's plenty of clients for each of us. And to me, I know that in the journey, it's so nice to see who gets with what clients and how it just works out. And it's a beautiful thing. But I'd love for people in your area too to know how to find more about you.
Okay. First of all, the feeling is mutual, and every time I see your name on a listing and I'm taking a buyer, I'm going, yes. I love it, because I know what we're going to get. We're going to get integrity. And so I am not only with Keller Williams, but I am part of the luxury. Here, I'll just pop that up there.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So Keller Williams Intown Atlanta is right across from Ponce City Market. That does not mean that's the only place I work. I currently live in Douglasville.
Wow.
I'm listing this week a property in Alpharetta. I have sold incoming. I am all across Atlanta. I lived in Gwinnett County for many years. I am pretty versed in the condo world, townhomes, in town, because I live there, and my journey's been 30 years long in Atlanta, and I've lived in a lot of different places.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I chose for the podcast the name Wise Move because it's all about the move, but we gain the wisdom through experience and all the knowledge that comes with that and the journey. And we've never fully arrived with it, but the wisdom that we can gain from one another and from different circumstances just helps make us better in our field and better able to serve our clients and better able to work together. So thank you, Stephanie, for coming on, for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you. Likewise. Thanks so much, Meredith.
Yes, thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in to Wise Move. I hope today's episode provided you with the tools and insights you need to confidently navigate your real estate, community, and life journey. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and please share this podcast with friends and family who are making their own moves. Stay connected for more real estate insights, and remember, every great move starts with a wise move.